things, and it got deleted because that's what we're working with when we're talking about tech giants. But anyways, besides the point, today we're going to be talking to Kat Calvin from Spread the Vote. And because of technical issues that we're not going to get into, we have her via FaceTime on my mother's phone. So you have a nice little inception here of me, and then you have Kat. This is beautiful Kat. Say hi to the people, Kat.
Hi, I love this solution. This is innovation right here is what this is.
That's what we come with. That is what women are here to do. Femmes have solutions for things. That's what we're here for. So today we're going to be talking about the elections because it is 2020, and in the midst of all of the chaos that we are experiencing right now, it is still 2020 and it is still an election year. Ooh, and right now it's super important for us to be mindful, even just taking note right now, like put the voting aside, of who our leaders are, what are they doing, especially right now, how are they handling crisis, how are they capable of handling where we intend to move forward as a society, because things, I don't know if y'all are with me on this, but shit has kind of hit the fan a little bit. And I think it's time for us to be mindful of who we're putting into these offices and who has control of, equity and the money and just ways for us and like control, power, So at the end of the day, these systems are broken because they were made that way, but we have the capacity to show up as our individual selves and make a difference in, right? Strength in numbers?
Yeah,
Strength
absolutely.
in numbers.
Strength in numbers.
So with that said, that's my little intro. I also got my little handy dandy. I'm doing a lot of things right now that I wasn't intending. All right, so let's start off with just a basic question, right? So what advice do you have for people who are voting for the first time? Because I know a lot of you are first-time voters. A lot of you haven't even registered to vote yet. So Kat's going to get into it about how this is going to go amidst right now.
Yeah, well, congratulations, A, on being a first-time voter, and B, on being a first-time voter during the apocalypse. That's a big deal. So I have a few things. First of all, it's really important to understand that voting is going to look really confusing, but it's like anything else. If you just break it down into the steps, it's not as confusing as it seems, and it is something that you are able to do, and that is really important for you to do, and we'll talk more about that. So the first thing that you have to do in every state except North Dakota, so if you're listening and you live in North Dakota, just cover your ears for a few seconds.
So not North Dakota, everyone but North Dakota, for whatever reason. What the heck is up with North Dakota?
Yes, I love North Dakota. North Dakota is my retirement plan. In every state except North Dakota, you have to register to vote.
So you don't have to register to vote in North Dakota?
You do not.
You just vote?
You just vote. Yep.
Imagine a concept.
It's fantastic. I know. It is. North Dakota is ahead of its times in many ways. So in order to do that, every single state has an elections website. It's usually like california.elections.gov or something, but you can Google it. You can also go to a website like vote.org. You can go to our website and you can just fill out a little form, and we're also going to give you a number you can text more into later. There are a lot of different ways for you to be able to find out how to register to vote. In a lot of states, you can register online, and so it's just a simple form. All they're asking for is, they'll ask for your name, some basic information, your address, which is important because if you vote in person in most states, your polling place where you vote is going to be close to your home. So they need your address. If you don't have an address for whatever reason, that's actually okay. You can write a description of an area where you're nearby, or some other things. So if you don't have an address, you can still vote. That really
is super important for our houseless population.
Yes, and we work with a lot of people experiencing homelessness, and we still help them vote, regardless of whether or not they have a permanent address. So you register to vote either by doing it online or by filling out a form and mailing it. So yes, you may have to find a stamp and give it to a mailman or go to the post office, but you can do it. And then you're registered. And you can go online on your state's website and check to make sure. Check in a few weeks. Check, if you've been registered for a while, a few months before the election, and make sure that you're registered, that it all went through. The later that you wait to register before an election, the longer it takes, because everybody else is waiting too. So it's better to do it earlier. And then once you're registered, you will be able to vote, and you can do it in a few ways. In normal non-apocalyptic years, you could just go to your polling place, or if you live in a state or a city with early voting, you could go to a lot of different polling places, and you could just go there and fill out the ballot. We'll see what happens with that this year, and we can talk more about that. But in a lot of states, you also have an option to vote by mail. That is always how I vote, because I don't like voting with pants on. Why? I can vote in my PJs. And so you can have the ballot just sent to your house. You can fill it out. You don't need a stamp to mail it back, or you can even drop it off at a polling place on election day if you want to, and you can get your ballot that way. So
yeah, really quick, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want everyone who's watching right now who is a U.S. citizen and is capable of voting right now, if you have that privilege at your disposal, I really, really want you to use it, especially if you're young and you haven't registered yet. It is so easy. You do not have to leave your house. You can literally, like she just said, you can request the ballot. It'll come to you, and you don't even need a stamp. Like, that's how easy this is. You can vote in your PJs and make sure that your voice is heard. And you don't you get a sticker too if you do that?
They mail you a sticker. Yep. So my voting ceremony.
You still get a sticker.
You still get a sticker. I always put on my really comfy PJs. I get a bottle of wine, only if you're over 21. I set up some voting guides. We'll talk a bit about those, but like from trusted sources. And then I pull out my ballot, and I just take all day. I usually have like Jurassic Park or something on in the background. And I just very comfortably vote from home and sip on some wine and go through everything and make sure that I, agree or most for, and then when I'm done, I just fold it up and I mail it out, and then I don't stand in any lines, and I don't have to, drive anywhere on election day, and it's all done, and it's just my own like wonderful election day ceremony.
Yeah, you know what I also kind of like about it is you can have, like you said, your voter guides with you. So you when you see a name, you can actually research and have like an account of who this person is that you're voting for, or. Because I know for me, like one of the first times that I went to go vote, I was 18, and I didn't know shit was what I found out. So I went and I got this paper. I'm so excited to vote. I know exactly who I'm voting for president, right? And then I go and I'm like, oh shit, there's a lot of people that I have to vote on. There's a lot of people up for election this year. There's a lot of people that are gonna have a lot of power that are up for election this year. And so I was very distraught by that, because I was like, I didn't know this. And I felt obviously ignorant that I didn't know this. Of course, these things were going to be on the ballot, but I realized how unfamiliar I was with the people running and what those people stood for, and I had nothing at my disposal to look that up, because you're also not going to like whip out your phone in the middle of a polling area, you know what I mean?
Please don't.
Yeah, you're not allowed to. That's illegal too, isn't it? No, it might not be illegal, but
in most states, like for instance, you can't take a selfie or things like that, and so you can't take a picture of your ballot in certain states. So it's really safest to leave your phone.
Yeah, so I love that. Basically, what I'm saying is though, I love that about the voting at home situation, is that you can have your guides at your disposal, and you can make sure that you're voting for someone that you actually believe in. You know what I mean? I think that that's one of the most important things. I feel like the majority of the U.S. population has been so discouraged by, obvious corruption and fraud, you know what I mean? And so it makes it that much harder to want to even research and to want to even know these politicians, because like when we think of politicians, we don't think of leaders who help us. Like we think of like liars, like people who are puppets, people who are going up there and like saying all this stuff just for you to care about them. They flip-flop on their issues. They are only catering to a populace to try to get a popular vote, and that's all they care about is keeping their power. And so I really want that to kind of be where we as a younger generation really rewire ourselves, is when we show up to these ballots, and the fact that we have the privilege of voting from home, right? So like if you have that, you show up, you have all of the info you need, you know exactly who you're voting for, you can do your own research and figure out who you align with, what you feel is your because I'm not telling you who to vote or nothing. Like you should know your values, and that's what you got to vote for. But at least know that who you're voting for aligns with your values. That's at least the important thing. We can't just kind of be in this space where we just don't know who we're voting for and we're just putting whoever in there, because history tells us that the people who run are people who are white men, and people who, do not have any interest in the people, but so much as an economic interest in their own affairs. You know what I mean? Their loyalty is to their lobbyists. Their loyalty is to the people who fill their pockets. Their donors. That's where their loyalty lies. And so we really need to be the generation that comes with this information and knows what we're voting, we know what we're trying to do here. We're not just trying to fill a space. We're trying to elect leaders who care about us and who are going to make a difference in our lives, in our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the other really important thing to remember is that Election Day is just one day of the process. Election Day is when you vote someone into office who you're then going to spend every other day of the year holding accountable.
365.
Hey, I voted for you. And what I care about is the environment or, education or whatever else. And I'm going to keep calling your office and writing letters and visiting on office hours. And I'm going to make sure that you know that I'm holding you accountable, right? Because if we just vote for someone every 4 years, the lobbyists are in their office every single day.
With that cash money. With the cash.
They're showing them really great parties and all of these things. And so it's really important for you to know voting is one day, but the political process is something that we're involved in every day. But when you vote,
essentially,
then you have the right to go to that person and say, I voted for you. What are you doing about these issues that I care about? What are you doing about my people? When you vote for someone, then you have the right to hold them accountable.
Vete. All right, next up we got, are state and local elections important or just the presidential election?
Good question. All right. I know everyone's always focused on the Iron Throne, and we think the presidential election is really important. And yes,
we're so used to monarchies. Like our consciousness, everything is monarchical. Like we have one person that has all the power, and then everyone else is just kind of for that person. But that's not the case, guys. We live in a democracy.
We do, and that it's the media spends all of their time talking about the presidential candidate. It's the one office that represents everybody in the country, and vice president. So it makes sense. They live in a great house. But the fact is, the people who make the real decisions about your everyday life, when we're in an emergency like now, and also every day, are state and local elected officials, right? When they're deciding on what's happening in your schools and your bus routes and who gets a liquor license and what does your state health insurance look like. And, there's so many issues. When they decide who gets to have fiber optic networks and who's still using dial-in or data at home, every single decision that is local to you is who you're voting for when you're voting for state and local elected officials. When you're thinking about who's being arrested, right, and who the sheriffs are and who's sitting in your county jails and your state jails, that's all local. That's all local. And so it's really important to understand not only that those elected officials matter, but that when we think about voting, we always think about, it's 66 million people or whatever are going to vote for president and my vote is only one. But when you're looking at the mayor or the city council or the sheriff, depending on the size of your town or your county, you're going to be one of a few hundred or a few thousand or, a few tens of thousands of people voting. Your vote is really going to matter. And you would be amazed by how often these elections come down to a tie.
One vote.
Or won by 1 or 2 votes. All of the time.
The 2016 presidential election.
There were actually a lot of typos. Actually, the entire partisan balance, which means whether Democrats or Republicans are in charge, of the entire Virginia state legislature came down to a tie in one district, and they drew names out of a hat. That happened in 2017. So it's
that's not a democratic guys, we're at a point where we're drawing names out of hats.
It happens all over.
Please show up.
Or they'll roll a die, or states have all sorts of different ways and counties that they will decide on elections. So
I have a headache. I have a headache from that statement. I have a headache. I have an oncoming headache. Just a bunch of white men rolling a dice. Who should we elect?
Yeah.
Bruh.
Yeah.
No.
That's kind of what it is. Yeah. So those local elections, they matter. The things you care about, right? I mean, if you think about where we are right now, The president is not deciding what city and states are choosing to reopen and who's saying restaurants can be open and who's saying that people have masks and who's deciding whether or not people experiencing homelessness are going to have hotel rooms to sleep in or parking lots. That's local elected officials.
Amen.
That's mayors, that's governors, that's boards of supervisors. Those are the people who run the county. It's local officials who
Amen.
make those decisions. So those elections, they are critical. They couldn't be more important.
Amen. And even we're seeing now, like with this whole handling of the COVID situation, like, you know, I find that Trump likes to deflect blame often, but he specifically is deflecting blame onto state officials. And if that doesn't, like the fact that he can, in the midst of a crisis, separate himself as the quote unquote leader and be like, well, it's up to your states to take care of you. It's the states, you know, the states are the ones who have the power. The states are the ones. I just find it interesting that, you know, it's all about the president and his power up until, you know, it comes down to handling shit. Then all of a sudden it's the people's problem. You know, and all of a sudden it's a local issue, and all of a sudden, oh well, sorry, we're tapped out federally. It's like, yeah, because you took care of all the major corporations instead of your people. You know, that's why you're tapped out with our tax dollars, You know, so it's so important because even like filling out your census, you know what I mean? Like that determines how much of the federal funds you're going to get sent to your own state for then your state officials to disperse. You know what I mean? Like essentially it's like a bank, you know, it's like a label, it's like a whatever, it's like middlemen all the way down, trickle down economics that ends up in a space where you end up with the least, if you are the least active, if you are the least motivated, if you think that you are unimportant, that's what the system will reiterate to you, is that you are unimportant. Because if you don't register yourself, if you don't participate in a quote unquote democratic process, which I'm skeptical about anyway. I just believe there's so much corruption in the United States. And I told Kat this before we even got on the phone. I was like, I'm a skeptical ass bitch. Like, just so you know, I do not trust this government as far as I can throw them because I don't trust liars. I don't trust liars. But that's the point, is that we need to be mindful of who we're electing. We need to educate ourselves about the process. We need to educate ourselves about what we can do, you know, in the midst of this, like, feeling so helpless of I can't do anything, everything's out of my control, and the rich just keep getting richer and the poor just keep getting poorer, and we're just headed towards whatever we're headed towards in that kind of regard, you know what I mean? And we're increasingly in a fascist regime right now, and so it's just one of those things where we have to be mindful of, if we have due process left, at least the little bit that we have left, we need to take advantage of it, and we need to show up exponentially if we want to show these leaders who do not have our best interest at heart that we care about the fact that they don't have that at heart. And we're seeing it, and we're going to call it out, and we're not going to vote for you. Actually, we're not going to put our energy towards you. We're going to align ourselves with people who actually care about us.
Well said. I have nothing to add.
Period. All right, so what will voting look like during COVID? Perfect little segue. Vote from home!
It depends, I mean, on whether or not we've got a cure or a zombie apocalypse. I think it's probably going to be a zombie apocalypse. I think there are a few things.
That's what it's looking like. Sure. It's pretty much rounding out to be that.
Pretty much. That's right, I've been practicing, I'm ready. I think there's a few things that we know for sure. So we know for sure that there's going to be a lot more voting at home, right? And there are states like my state of California, which has already said, look, we're just going to send a ballot home to everybody.
But who is everybody?
Every registered voter in the state of California. They're just automatically sending a ballot. So that we can reduce the number of people who go to polling places, right? So we know there's going to be a lot more voting at home, which is great. We know that there are people who can't vote from home. There are people who have disabilities who maybe don't have a home. For people experiencing homelessness, getting a ballot mailed to them, not a thing that's always possible. There are elderly folks. There are people for whom they have to go to polling places. And so one of the things we know is that by trying to keep as many people away from the polls as possible, then the people who absolutely have to vote in person can do so more safely. And we can also protect poll workers who are wonderful people. My mom's always a poll worker.
Volunteers, yeah,
all
my
day,
neighbors.
volunteering, helping people vote, and we want to protect them as well. So we know that there will be a lot of measures to try to make sure that people who have to vote in person are safe, and that as many people as possible vote from home to keep them safe. And then I think that we also know that there are things that are, like counting mail-in ballots takes a lot longer than counting ballots from electric machines and things like that, right? So we also really want people to vote earlier. The great thing about voting by mail is that you don't have to wait till election day. You can vote, depending on the state, they'll send you the ballot, but you usually have at least a month. You have a really long time, and so it helps the state be able to process things more quickly, because those are essential employees who are going to be forced to work rather than being able to stay at home and shelter in place. So being able to vote earlier and being able to vote from home is going to help the people, both who are working really hard to keep this process going, as well as people who have to go to the polls in person.
Amen. Oíste? So register.
Yes, register to vote. Request a mail-in ballot if you can at all. And I think those will be two really big ways that we help this process move forward as smoothly as possible.
And to make sure that it happens, I think is really important too. Because I think that's, like, we need to, I don't know, I personally am fearful because they just kind of like keep bending rules according to what they decide is important. So I want to, like, I feel like voting from home and via mail is also like a surefire way to make sure that we get, like, we can, you know what I mean, vote on that day, and that we don't have to like postpone that or do anything to like jeopardize making sure our democratic process is still intact for whatever it's left of it.
Yeah, for sure. One very good thing about, well, it's good and bad. The Founding Fathers, for some reason, decided we should vote in November, where it's absolutely freezing cold for like 60% of the states.
But that sounds about right. Sounds about white.
The good thing is that the election day it's a constitutional day, right? So changing that would require massive forces that nobody right now thinks are going to be mobilized in order to move election day. So I think that happening there's a very, very low chance of that happening. I think, though, that what will happen is that state governments will make very late decisions about things like whether or not they should send everyone a mail-in ballot, right? California decided that a little while ago, way ahead of time, because we
love a progressive state.
It's a progressive state, and they're also just a crap ton of people, and like printing out all those things and getting them mailed is going to take a long time.
Yeah.
But I think, if you're waiting and you're thinking, oh, well, my state's probably going to decide to just mail all of us a ballot and then it'll just get here. Well, they may wait a really long time to decide that.
Be proactive.
So being proactive is going to guarantee that you get that ballot instead of, maybe your governor, and maybe your governor decides a month ahead of time, and then they get sued by the state legislature, and then they have to go to court, and then a week ahead of time the courts are like, yeah, you can send everyone a ballot, and now you've got a week. So being proactive is going to make sure that it comes, even if something else, even if your state makes a late decision. And that's really, I think, what's going to be really important, is just making sure you get that ballot in your hands, because the election is, it's going to happen unless the world is collapsed and we're in a dystopian society.
Because we're not? We're not in a...
Instagram. We'll be in a true dystopian society when social media has fallen apart.
Do you think so? I don't know, man. I think that the social media, personally, I feel like the social media just kind of like puts the blanket over the wool. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because it's illusion.
This year, and it's the best thing I've ever done.
Yo, I gave up Twitter last year, and it was fantastic.
I have like a new brain. It's crazy.
I respect that.
I have a new brain.
I respect that.
Yeah,
all right, so next question. How do you choose the right candidate? Like we were talking about earlier, it's so hard to
it is.
Sort through all of these horrible people.
It's hard. So first of all, look, politicians are politicians, right? 99% of them are just terrible people. And one of the things that's important is choosing the least terrible person according to your values and then holding them accountable, right?
Right.
That's what's important, because they're all humans,
and we are infallible.
There's a lot of money and fame and power being thrown at them. It's hard to do the right thing. Watch Mr. Smith.
Is it hard to do the right thing when you have a lot of money, fame, and power thrown at you?
It's really hard to do the right thing, and I know this because most people don't do it, so it must be hard.
It's not hard. I'm someone who does it. It's not hard. It's all about comfortability. That's what it is.
Yeah, well, and look, we're weak. I don't know. I never had people try to throw money and power at me. I don't know how I would react. I reckon people, please try. Throw money and power at me. Let's see how I do.
Let's try it out.
Let's just see. Let's just experiment.
My Cash App is...
But, so one thing that's important is to say, all right, look, these two people, nah. But one of them, wants
promising.
to commit genocide against
one of them is
people.
promising.
Right, and the other one, they don't really have a great education plan, but they don't want to kill me. And hey, 2020, those are often our options. But choose the person who you think is best according to your values, and then keep pushing them. Now how do you find out who that person is? So there are a lot of different ways. One great thing about social media is that every politician is on it now, and they're constantly tweeting, and many of them do not have good staff who stop them from tweeting. So it's often very possible to find out who that person really is.
Via their Twitter? I mean, Donald Trump's is very telling.
Yes, we have a president who loves to tweet, for better or worse, depending on what side of
always for worse. Always for worse. Such a disaster.
And so, you can do things as simple as follow them on social media. They're going to talk about the issues. They're going to talk about how they feel about COVID-19. They're going to talk when there's a school shooting. They're either going to be someone who says, "Oh, thoughts and prayers," or they're going to be someone who says, "This is fucking bullshit. We need to change this." Right. So that's one place. There are things called voter guides or election guides, which tons of organizations put together, and they say who they recommend.
Start that again, babe. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So there are things called voter guides or election guides that a lot of organizations put out that tell you which candidates they endorse, they support, based on their views of that particular issue. So, for instance, if you really care about the environment, then you might want to go to the Sierra Club and see what they say about candidates, because they're looking at candidates through an environmental lens. Or if you're young, you might want to go on Rock the Vote, and Rock the Vote makes election guides, and they're specifically asking about youth issues. Or you might want to go to Moms in Action and see who does Moms in Action support, because they're looking at the lens of gun violence and trying to stop gun violence. So you can think about what are the issues that I really care about, and you can really just Google, if you Google, LGBTQ rights and elections, or election guide, you're going to get different organizations that have put up their own endorsements for candidates and their own descriptions about candidates based on the issues that you care about. And that's a really good way to see, oh, you know what, I am a teacher, or my mom's a teacher and she's in the NEA, and we think that teachers' rights are really important. And so I'm going to see who the NEA is supporting or endorsing, because I want to vote for someone who's pro-teachers like the NEA. And so those election guides are really helpful. They can be helpful. Now, they can be a little confusing. Some organizations are not good at writing language simply. So, sometimes it may not be as easy to read. But if you keep looking, you will figure it out. And usually they're pretty simple. And then the last thing that I would say is talk to people you trust who hold the same values, whether it's your parents or, a teacher or, someone at church or, your mentor or uncle or whatever. If there's someone who you trust, who sort of sees the world the same way that you do, and maybe they're a little older and have voted a little bit, you can talk to them and say, hey, what do you think about this person? Now, it's important to note, very few people know a lot about voting because it's pretty complicated. And so your uncle may be like, I don't know, or they may say, if they say, well, according to my friend on Facebook, just stop listening.
No. Don't take third-party information. Go do your own research.
Who's getting their news from Facebook. But,
also, guys, I'm just a little quick pause. It just literally started hurricaning in my backyard. Like,
oh my gosh.
Torrential rain.
Tropical storm.
What the heck? That's why I just jolted the way that I did. It like thundered and lightninged very, very vividly. The lightning was right here in my bag. That was really scary. And excuse me, I'm so sorry to have interrupted.
No.
But
Weather-related emergency.
yeah, weather update.
Yeah, so I hope that's helpful.
Incredibly helpful. I'm sorry, I kind of super distracted at the end of that. But yeah, that's incredibly helpful. Is definitely, first of all, do your research. Do your own research is the first thing I'm going to encourage. Don't listen to anybody. Listen to your own intuition and your own your own ability to discern and critical think about what's important to you, like she said. Definitely figure out what issues you're passionate about. Figure out how, like, what are the things that you care about changing or being better, like just whatever it is that you care about, like go and look that up. And then like she said, the resources. So when I post this on my IG main feed or whatever, when this is done, I'm going to put a number there that you guys can text. It's the community that app that I have for everyone in the US. It has accessibility to it. I'm going to put the number there, and I'm going to be sending you guys a text message with different voting resources. Just like, first of all, at the end of this, we'll also have a way that number you guys can text so that you can get your ballot sent to you, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But I'm also going to be texting you guys specific information, just like extra guides that can help you. And I'll do that throughout this process until election day so that you guys can have some tangible resources. And don't necessarily have to do too much looking. But definitely, again, still do your own research. I'm just a person. I'm one other person. I know whatever, celebrity, whatever, but I'm just a person. So I'm just as infallible as anyone else. So make sure that you do your own research.
Yeah, and that's a good note. Like, Lauren is amazing, and I love her, but don't listen to celebrities, you guys, because they're first of all,
a lot of them are part of the agenda. First of all,
right? They don't have PhDs in political science or anything. Like many celebrities I see on the news, I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're a great actor, but like you're not an expert on nuclear non-proliferation. What are you doing? And I just totally messed up that word. So like. Celebs are great for certain things, but you may not want to find out like all of your news from like your favorite celeb's Instagram channel. So definitely some critical thinking on your own, and then like go listen to a song or watch a movie with your favorite celeb in it, and then. Research the experts when you're looking into like.
And that's also not to deflect the fact that a lot of celebrities can go out of their way and educate themselves and have valid opinions. Because we are also people that can educate ourselves and have valid opinions. Or connection. Are we back? Oh, my connection's cutting out. I hope you guys can still see me. But so yeah, not to invalidate the fact that, you know, obviously people can be educated outside and also be an artist, but like it is important again to do your own research and to find experts on topics and make sure that you deep dive and don't just take what other people, especially not on the fucking internet, because this place is a madhouse. Anyways, let's see. Next question. How did it feel the first time you voted? Am I answering this question? The first time that I voted, I was a little bit of a wreck. I was very excited. Like, I felt so linked and like walk in, like I had a t-shirt on, my nipples were showing. It was great. I loved it. I loved the fact that I was doing that as I went to go vote. So I did that and I voted and I felt so American. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. It was not an American process, but I did feel powerful. I felt like, wow, my voice matters. I have a say in what happens in the world. And granted, again, the voting is a very small part. It's a one-day part of the process of very quickly as well.
Yes, for sure. Actually, the first time I voted, I was in, I think, the 5th grade, and my mom always took us out of school to go to polling places to vote, and I got to bubble in the circle for president because I was the oldest. And it was super exciting because, A, I was very young, but also because it was like, you know, I understood, she talked to us about like what it meant to like go in there and to choose your leaders and to like make decisions on important issues, and then you like bubble in next to the name and then that person won. And so then I was like, oh, I totally did that, and it was really exciting, and it really made me so thrilled for when I was 18 and could vote.
I love that your mom did that.
Yeah, it was really smart of her. And
I
now,
really love that.
We vote all the time.
Yeah, she normalized it and she validated its importance. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, she did a pretty good job.
Let's go, Mom. Mama Calvin. I don't know her last name.
Yeah, is there another question?
Yeah, next question is, how does vote by mail work and is it safe? We kind of touched upon that, but just to reiterate, I think would be important.
Yeah, so I vote by mail, simple process. You go online, and remember, not every state has this, so you're going to be able to sort of text Lauren's number at the end and find out if your state has it.
I got you. I got you.
Don't have it. Will have it as the year keeps going, so pay attention. But you go online, you register to vote by mail, it's in a form or whatever, but you do what you have to do. They send you a ballot, you vote, you mail it back. So it's pretty simple.
Okay, I got off the Wi-Fi. This should work. This should work. We're back, guys. Sorry, there's a literal freaking tropical storm outside. As if the world isn't casually ending. As if. All right, we're back. So as you were saying.
Yes. So requesting absentee ballot, pretty simple. As for the safety question, so it's a really good question. There have been a lot of studies about voter fraud and whether or not they exist. And what they found is that voter fraud exists in, and I'm going to see if I get all the zeros right, 0.0000001% of all mail-in ballots that are sent in. So it is an almost non-existent issue. We have billions and billions of ballots that go out, and 491, I think is the number, have been fraudulent in some way. So as far as voter fraud, it's not a problem that we have seen in any way. We have a lot of safeguards up. It's not a massive issue. People aren't breaking into big buildings, stealing a bunch of ballots and filling them all out of the mail in the back. It's not happening.
I mean, that happened in Florida, so. That did happen. There was a bitch in Florida that did that.
There's a lot of shit, but it is a very small percentage of what happens.
There's only a little bit of crazy people out there.
Well, Florida. So then, on the other end, when you mail in your ballot, again, the chances of it not being counted. So if it's not counted, it's usually for a reason like your signature doesn't match the signature of your voter registration card, or there's an instruction that you maybe have to have a witness in some states and you didn't get someone else to sign, or things like that. Maybe you messed up the ballot in some way.
But even the signature one, though, just for me as someone, I know that my signature when I was 16 is very different from my signature now.
Yes, and so it's really important that you check all the rules, that you check what your voter registration, if you still have your card, or sometimes it's online, what your signature looked like, that you sort of double check those things. There's still a very low possibility of it getting thrown out, but the possibility increases if you're not looking to make sure you're following the rules. So you do want to check the mail-in ballot and maybe read the website and make sure, that you're not filling in the ballot with a purple pen if they say black or blue ink only, right? Which matters. It's like the SAT,
read instructions.
Exactly.
We love to read, right? Critical thinking, reading, we love it.
Yes. Critical thinking is, I just want to plaster it on everybody's forehead in America. Please start critical thinking. But I know it's a lot, and you get these ballots, and there's a lot going on, and it can be really confusing. I get that, but that's another reason having it at home, being able to really calmly look at it and read the instructions carefully, Google the instructions if you need to, is going to be helpful, because that's doing those things right is going to be the best way of making sure that your vote gets counted.
All right, so okay. This is a good one because this is happening in Florida, right? The last election that we had locally, we reinstated felons, formerly incarcerated people's right to vote. Mm-hmm. And obviously the government's been working double time to undo that, because that would expose first of all, it's a whole new populace basically that is allowed to vote, because a lot of people have gotten their right to vote taken away unconstitutionally, in my opinion. But So yeah, let's get into that. Like, are ex-felons allowed to vote? What does that look like? How do we... Because here's the thing for me is, like, we say ex-felons, right? Or we say incarcerated people. But I just feel like in a system where we have a very well-known prison industrial complex that is racially biased, who is it really whose voice is being taken away? And how is it that that's affecting the way that leaders are elected? How is it that that's affecting the way that district attorneys are elected, that sheriff officials are elected? You know what I mean? Like, who has a say in what's happening versus who's experiencing what's happening? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want to get into that a little bit.
All right, well, we could talk about this for like 3 hours, but I'm going to break down a couple of things that we can dive in. So one thing that's really important to note is that, first of all, the vast majority of people who have been in jail or prison for some reason did not commit and be convicted of a felony, okay? So the vast majority of those people can vote. If we have hundreds of thousands of people in this country who are in jail because they couldn't make bail.
Amen.
Right? Haven't been convicted of anything. Sometimes they're there for a year just because they couldn't make bail.
Amen.
All of those people can vote. The majority of folks who have been convicted have been convicted of misdemeanors. Those people can vote, and you can vote from jail. And Spread the Vote is actually working on a program right now to help people in jail vote this year at bigger numbers, because important. You can vote from jail if you haven't been convicted or if you only committed a misdemeanor. So it's really important for you to know that. And then when you've been released, you can still vote. It was never taken away. So that's important, and that's everywhere.
That is super important. I want to reiterate that real quick. Yes. If you have been to jail, okay, and you did not, first of all, you were unrightfully there. That's the first one. If you did not commit a felony, if whatever you were charged or convicted of, even if if you are not officially convicted of a felony, you have the right to vote. It was never taken from you. It is still yours. And I want you to know that. And I know that a lot of people who have been through that system obviously foster a very deep disbelief in the system. But I really want you to know that you matter. First of all, you matter. You're a valid human being, and a mistake should not ever define you for your entire life, especially one that was nonviolent, especially one that was not a quote-unquote felony, even though we all know some felonies are just ridiculous. And it's also about who gets punished for these quote-unquote crimes versus who gets to evade these crimes, which is also a huge thing in this country. So I just want you to know you're valid, and your vote matters, and your vote counts. And actually, your voice is so important because you are the one who has experienced this. You know what this is, and you know the kind of the way that your particular city or state deals with incarcerated population or deals with the way funds are distributed in these circumstances. So be active and have your voice heard. You're not on the wayside, and you are valid. Like, you are allowed to do this.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So that's really important to know. Then the second important thing to know is if you were convicted of a felony, when you are released and you're off paper, first of all, this varies by state, right? Like, if you live in Vermont, you can still vote no matter what.
There you go.
Most states, once you're off papers, you can vote. In some states, like Tennessee, makes it very, very, very difficult for people who committed felonies to vote. And so, you can ping Spread the Vote, and there are local organizations that can help you with that. And then there are states like Florida where we don't actually know because there's a big court case happening right now, and so we'll find out sometime in the next few months when you can vote. But it really varies. So a lot of people think, I committed a felony, I can never vote. First of all, in most states, that's absolutely not true. You can vote in most states at some point from the moment you're released to the moment you're off papers, depending on the state. And then in other states, there's varying degrees of difficulty, but it's really important for you to look into what is actually the case in your state, because there are very, very few states, like a couple of states where they're going to make it almost impossible for you to vote. The vast majority of states in this country, you can vote at some point once you're released, depending on what part of that process. And so,
let me guess, it's harder in the South, right?
Some southern states. I'm a big fan of the South. Vermont is very easy. But it depends. Tennessee's we've worked a lot with folks trying to get their rights back in Tennessee. I know it's a very tough state, but for most of them, at some point you can. So, we work with and help a lot of people get their rights restored who just were told and believed, or maybe just believed because given the country that we're in, it seems likely that once you were in jail, you could never vote again. And that is almost always not the case. You almost always can. And so it's really important to seek out that information and find out, can I vote? And when you can, at whatever point in that process you need to get to register, because just like Lauren said, you know these issues. You know who these people are. You know what the system is like, and you are the ones whose voices really matter to be able to help us change it.
Amen. Amen. You guys are so important. And like, I feel like, you know, like I was saying to Kat earlier, like we have this obsession as a society with like true crime shows and like, you know, just like this obsession with crime and justice and all of this stuff. But like very rarely systematically do we see, you know, people that are being criminalized actually be, you know, dangerous criminals. Like most of the dangerous criminals are running amok and running the government, to be honest. So like we're at that kind of place where we have to I think we need to change the narrative about the way that we view, you know, those who have been incarcerated. There are so many different reasons why people get incarcerated, and there are so many more exceptions than there are like people who are in there because they deserve it. You know what I mean? Like there are so many more people in there because of a technicality, because of a racial profiling, because of poverty, because of homelessness, because of life circumstances putting them in an inopportune moment. You know what I mean? There's so many more people in there wrongfully than there are rightfully. And I also am a firm believer in rehabilitation. Like, I just believe that we're human beings. We're going to make mistakes, especially younger kids. Like, the fact that a juvenile system exists is absurd to me. Kids are going to make, and it's also very clear who is held accountable for these rule breakings and who is not held accountable for these rule breakings should also tell us a lot about these systems in general. So I think it's, again, very important, just like even us as the people who are non-incarcerated, who have not been through that experience, it's important for us, first of all, to voice our support for these people and validate their humanity, first of all, in all circumstances, because I find myself having those conversations, you know, casually and publicly, you know what I mean? Like in my own personal life with people I know and in a public life, you know, like what I'm doing right now. But like destigmatizing what it means to be a quote unquote criminal, all right? Watch 13th on Netflix. Watch that documentary by Ava DuVernay. Watch that. And just educate yourself about what's really going on in this country and the prison industrial complex, so you can better understand why these people's rights would be taken away for something as important as voting. And a constitutional right as important as voting. All right. Last question. Should incarcerated people be allowed to vote? That's the last question I had. And that's we just had a dissertation on that. These are people.
You know what though? I do have one thing to add to that. So one big reason that people who are incarcerated should be able to vote is because they are actually counted in the census count as
you froze up. Sorry, say that again.
Wait.
You froze up, Mama. Say that again.
Okay. So one really important reason that people who are incarcerated should be able to vote is because they're actually counted in the census count of the population of the area where they are being jailed or imprisoned. So the people who live in this small town next to the big state prison, they get the amount of resources and benefits that account for all of the people in that prison into their local community. So they get money for schools and hospitals and everything else accounted for because of that population of folks.
That's
also how they decide things like congressional districts. So it is really important that people who are incarcerated should be able to vote because they're being counted.
Wow, they're the reason why. And probably in most cities where like there, you know, because like majority of like places that are like jails and prisons exist in major cities. You know what I mean? So like
they either are in major cities or they're large prisons in extremely rural areas with very small towns that are getting the resources of much, much larger populations.
Oh, which is so, wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
That just blew my mind. So
incarcerated people should absolutely not only be able to vote, but it should be facilitated.
if your body's being counted as someone giving resources to a particular area, you absolutely should have a right to those resources, and you absolutely should have a right to who is allowed to disperse said resources.
Yep.
All right. That was awesome. That was fucking awesome. So you can text Lauren to 62797, I believe it is. If I'm pretty positive.
Sounds right.
So you can text my name, LAUREN, to 62797. 62797. That's Lauren to 62797. One more time. Lauren to 62797.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait. So yeah, do that, and you'll be able to get information about whether or not you can vote from home in your particular state. Mother, not the time. We're being serious. You can vote from home in your state, and you can figure that out. And if not, you can figure out how it is that you can register. I want you all to check and make sure you're registered. I want you to check and make sure you're registered appropriately, because that's happened to me where I registered incorrectly and I had to re-register like a dummy. But it's okay. I just didn't know. I didn't have the information, and I'm trying to mitigate that and make sure y'all have the information. And then again, I'll also be texting you guys. I'm going to post this on my main feed with a number. That's my community, and you can text that, and I will get you guys some more resources about voting resources and who to vote for, or not who to vote for, but just different places that you can do your own research and figuring out who the candidates are in your particular country, county, state, not country, we're the same country, my bad, in your county or state, and just making sure that you're informed about who you're voting for and have that resource. See? Thank you so much, Kat. You are such an awesome... First of all, I love your personality. You're amazing. You're funny. You're funny as hell. And then also, thank you so much for informing everyone and my fans today. I appreciate you. I'm trying to talk to you through the screen, but I want to talk to you.
There's a lot going on. No, it's great, and I'm so excited that you and all of your fans are thinking about voting enough to even watch, because you guys are the ones who are going to make all the decisions, and it's important.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Kat. Appreciate
Thanks.
you. Bye. Bye. Okay, bye. All right. That was fucking awesome.
¿Mi telefonito?
Ahí está. Está cargando. Déjalo. Yes, dude. Let's go. Let's show up. Strength in numbers, people. Because that's the thing, is the only way that these regimes can really be formed and really continue to gain power and traction. Because right now, in my opinion, what we're seeing is we're in an oligarchy. This place is run by corporations, and everyone in power has some sort of loyalty to said corporations, and those are the people getting resources, or they're considered people. Entities are considered people. And so they're getting most of the resources, most of the tax cuts, most of the tax breaks. We're seeing now, Jeff Bezos is about to be a trillionaire. Really, when there's people dying of starvation in our country right now, 30 million people unemployed, brand new unemployed. Honestly, it's kind of just a really tragic state of affairs, to be honest. And that is why I felt passionate and really wanted to get you guys some tangible information about how to do this and what you can personally do in your own accord. And I'm not going to say that voting is the end-all be-all of how we're going to fix where we are right now. I think it's one of the powers that we still have in our possession as of right now. And so I would ask that there are so many people who died for this right to vote, and so many people who have made this process, just salvaged whatever's left of it in order for us to be able to have the right to do this. So I really, really highly suggest and recommend just us as a people really showing up for ourselves and doing what we can. If it's corrupt, it's corrupt, but it's way harder for it to be corrupt when we all have a say, and when we all know our rights, and when we all exercise those rights, instead of just kind of writing it off as oh, well, that's not really anything that works for me, or I don't understand that, so I'm not trying to do that. That's not an excuse, especially right now. So I really, especially my white followers, y'all need to use your voices. Any of you who follow me, I'm assuming, resonate with me and my views. And so I need you to use that. Use your power. Use your power whenever you can, please. especially when it comes to voting. So that's one thing. I do not think that it stops there, though. Like I said, I believe that voting is a super small part of what you can be doing to combat what's going on right now, so that you can be more informed and you can be a critical thinker. That is the most important thing right now, is for you to be a critical thinker. For you to be a critical thinker, you can not only absorb your information via Instagram, via The Daily Show, or via, whatever it is that you follow to get your information, or meme accounts, or celebrities that you think are really well educated like myself. We cannot be your primary source of information. You need to be your primary source of information. You need to be going out. You need to be making sure, you need to be researching who's writing those articles you're reading. You need to be researching who and what in your area, mutual aid funds in your area that you could be helping out right now to help people tangibly who actually need help, not corporations, but people who are literally unable to pay rent and have no idea how they're going to feed their kids, those kinds of people. We need to get we really need to start having a revolution of the mind, I believe. I think it's long overdue, and in some spaces it's happening, and in a lot of spaces it isn't. And I feel like when it comes to the youth, I think that we are very well aware and we're very awake, but we very rarely know how to harness our power and use it, because we're often told that we are not powerful. I've been told that my whole fucking life, that I'm not powerful enough. I'm 23 years old, but I have been like this and like myself since I was very young. And I've always been met with doubt and suspicion, and who are you to have an opinion? And we're the people, we're the people. We make up this country. We deserve, it's our futures at stake right now. It's our kids' futures at stake right now. These dinosaur old heads that are making all these crazy ass decisions and policies and just completely ignoring the needs of the people right now is where we're at. The people's needs are being ignored. The workers' needs are being ignored. The people who are deemed essential workers get a nice little billboard, but they get their wages cut, So we have to really, really, really be mindful of what's going on here and do deeper research. Again, you shouldn't even be getting your information from one source. You should be checking mad sources. Check sources that don't even align with your views, so that you can really read what people are up to, what people are thinking, what people are talking about. It's really important, because we all like to really divide ourselves, and most of the politics that we've been seeing are very divisive, and they make us feel like we're in two different categories: the right, the left, black, white, evil, good, liberal, conservative, whatever the fuck that means. These are all people really tend to kind of put everything into this binary scale of it's either this or it's that, and there's no in between. And us getting to a point where we critically think about where we're at, and we critically source our news, and we critically source our opinions, that's when we're going to start seeing a shift in the consciousness here in America. Because we have yet to even acknowledge all of the layers of why we've gotten to where we've gotten. Okay? And when it comes to voting, I need you to understand there is privilege in that. There's privilege in those layers. There's privilege to being able to get a ballot and have a voice. And it's our job right now to show up for people who do not have that voice, who have been fucked by this system. These systems for far too long. For far too long. And I'm not saying, again, I don't think it's going to end with this 2020 vote. I'm not even going to front like that. But I do think it's important. I do think it's important for us to have our voices heard. And I do think it's important for us to mobilize and use our minds right now. That is the most important thing that we can do for each other and for our futures. Because it's getting wild out there. It's getting wild. And I know that I personally, I'm empathic, and I see shit, and I sit, right now it's rainy outside, and all I want to do is sit out there and cry in the rain because of how overwhelmed I feel about the state of the world. And I've been that way since I was tiny. That's why I'm so passionate, because I can't just watch, I can't just watch this all happen. And we need to get uncomfortable, and we need to get angry, and we need to start defending the people who deserve it, and we need to stop defending motherfuckers. And we really, really, really need elected officials who care about the people, not elected officials who are getting money from these goddamn corporations, okay, that are billion-dollar corporations, million-dollar corporations, trillion-dollar corporations, whatever you want to, whatever level it is, it's unnecessary. And that's not to say that people don't deserve compensation for hard work, but those people at the tip top, they didn't get that on their own. Their workers got that for them. And that's what we need to remember, is that the populace, this is how it is right now. It's a little Illuminati shit, but it's a pyramid right now. There's a lot of power to a little bit of people at the top, and a huge way down with how the wages are dispersed. And we really need to get woke, people. You need to get into what's happening in your local communities, into who is making these rules, into who is passing these laws and policies, and how your tax money is being used. Your money. They call it theirs once it's in their possession and the IRS has it. But it's your money. You work for it. Not them. They sit in their little offices and get paid by it. And then get the check from the lobbyists, and then they're rich on both ends, and then they just do whatever the fuck the lobbyist says. Pero tú te tienes que joder. Tú te tienes que joder. Nah. Eso nah. Come on. We gotta wake up. We gotta wake up. Wake up. Wake up. All right. So, yeah. Again, text my name, Lauren, to 62797, and you will be getting a text message that'll let you know if you can register for a mail ballot, a vote by mail ballot in your state. And I'm gonna be posting the number in the caption after I post this video. And you can text me and I will send you resources if that's what you need and you need help. I'm here to help, here to facilitate, do what I can. All right, I love you guys. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your Sunday. Stay safe. Stay woke, bitch. I love you.